Dean, firstly, I guess congratulations are in order. Just had a quick look on social media. Some of the fans have described it as the best Black Friday deal around. I guess it was an easy decision from your perspective, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I came in last year and my remit was under that contract was to get us promoted, and fortunately we managed to do that first time with Aston, and and now we're 13 games into the Premier League season, and I think the club is looking to push forward. Well, I know it is. Got two owners who are invested into the football club, not just financially but emotionally as well. And it's a club that I believe can grow a lot more than it is at the moment.
Has it been everything you thought it would be when you took over last October? Do you feel the highs as much as you thought you would, and the lows as well?
I suppose because it's been the biggest high I've experienced getting promoted at Wembley, for my hometown team. The highs have been very high, but I'm fairly level-headed. I've tried to be as consistent as possible, so I've not got too low. That's for sure. I find more that my family and friends do that for me as Aston Villa fans. But it's everything that I wanted, and we're progressing, and that's the biggest thing for me.
I guess for every new contract for a manager in the Premier League, the opposite tends to happen quite a lot as well. Unai Emery lost his job at Arsenal today. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, it's not nice to see any managers lose their job. Pochettino last week, Emery this week, and unfortunately, it's the pitfalls of the business that we're in. It's a tough job. Certainly the Everton's, the Arsenals, and the Tottenhams at the moment. They're expected to be challenging, for major honours every season. So very difficult to do that with some of the clubs that are progressing now. You look at Leicester and how they're doing at the moment. Man City and Liverpool are, light years away from us all at the moment. So nobody likes to see, other coaches lose their jobs, and wish them both well and hope they're back in the game, and I'm sure they will be soon.
It's a tough day to ask you, I guess, this next question, given you just signed a new contract. But when you look at the managers who have gone, Pochettino, Emery, Javi Gracia at Watford as well this season, all got their teams to a cup final last season, and now they're out of a job before Christmas. It's a fine line you guys walk, isn't it?
It is. I've spoke before about, there's three opportunities of winning something unless you're in Europe. You've got the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and the Premier League, and so to get to a cup final is a great achievement, but that achievement has probably been lessened a little bit with the finances that are in the Premier League now.
It was interesting to hear you talk about being level-headed a few minutes ago. Was that important in the last 4 games or so? Because there was a lot of talk about going into Newcastle having lost 3 in a row, but I guess the reality from your perspective was, barring 45 minutes at Wolves, it was actually all pretty positive. Yeah,
well, I knew where the questions would probably go in after the Wolves game and leading into the Newcastle game. We'd played Manchester City away and Liverpool home and performed very well in both games. Like most teams, didn't come away with anything. And after them 2 games, there was always be the talk about how well we'd done. But if we didn't get anything at Wolves, there would always be, you've lost 3 Premier League games on the spin. In between that, we have actually won the last 16 game against Wolves in the Cup as well to get us through to the quarter-final. So, but I try and treat each game as its own merit and its own right, and Newcastle was that for me also. It wasn't a must-win game, but it was an important game because obviously we'd just lost 3 Premier League games on the spin.
Does experience then teach you to, I guess, hold your nerve a little bit and not think, God, I need to do something completely different because we've lost a few games, and stick to the principles that you've tried to instill to the group of players?
Yeah, I think that's important that you do that. You're always learning all the time, every day. You're making decisions. Some of them are good decisions, some of them not so good, and it's important that you learn from the ones that aren't so good. But you're learning all the time, and when you're making these decisions, you're looking back on the experiences that you've experienced before. And somebody asked me how many games I've managed, and I actually didn't know. And I think it's about 450 or something like that. So it's a long time. I was fortunate enough to go to see Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp get inducted into the LMA Hall of Fame last night, and listening to them last night was an experience in itself, and just how humble they both are, and the humility they show to other coaches in this profession, and that experience that I've had, but also listening to more experienced people than myself, and and people like them too is part of my experience there.
In terms of looking forward to the weekend, how's Bjorn Engels doing?
Yeah, Bjorn's fine. He's trained every day so far. He just felt that he wasn't right to give us 90 minutes if required against Newcastle, so I didn't put him on the bench. But he's trained all week, so he should be available for selection.
And where are you with Keenan Davis and Hotter at the moment?
Hotter's been training fairly regular for the last 2-3 weeks. He'll probably need some match minutes now. Keenan Davis starts jogging on Monday, so that's great news for us. He's pain-free, so hopefully he'll be back in the next 2 or 3 weeks as well.
I guess in terms of Bjorn Engels, it gives you a little bit of a problem, a nice one, albeit because Esri Konsa's done ever so well since he came in. Just wondered sort of how he was and how you managed him in terms of coming into the club in the summer and then having to wait quite a long time for his first Premier League game.
Esri's one that I knew obviously by I took him into Brentford from Charlton, so I knew him as a lad, and I explained to him that he would have to be patient and wait for his time, but also make sure that he's training to a high standard, so he's pushing the people around him, and he's been doing that. He's been knocking on the door for a while, and he's been frustrated because he wants to play. You have to remember that these players like Esri, who made his debut very early at Charlton, has been playing regular football for the last 4 seasons. So for him to not be playing on a regular basis Saturday to Saturday has been frustrating for him, and he's had to bide his time, and he's done really well in the 2 games he's played.
In terms of Manchester United in the challenge this weekend, again, aside from the result, and I know that the Arsenal game still rankles you, but Arsenal away, Tottenham away, even for 45 minutes, Manchester City have been very competitive. Does that give you a lot of confidence going to a place like Old Trafford? It
certainly does. I mean, we know that we can be competitive, with the top teams in this league, and we've shown that. Man City, Arsenal, and Tottenham. We haven't come away with the results that we would like, but we haven't been very far away from getting in. It's down to small details at times, and the players are learning all the time. They're getting to grips with each other, because we had a big turnaround in the summer, 12 players, and that part of gelling with each other seems to be becoming very close now. They're starting to become more of the team unit that I expected of them, and that always takes time.
In terms of going to a place like Old Trafford, would you say that the fear factor that was there 5, 10, 15 years ago is gone now?
I don't know. I mean, I went to the Manchester United Liverpool game, and they were certainly up for that game, and played extremely well on the day against Liverpool. I think you go into a stadium where there's going to be 76,000 fans there, so there's an intimidation factor there in itself. People, I remember, the Sir Alex Ferguson saying that when he was looking at players, he looked at players who he felt could handle that atmosphere. So that's something that my players have to go and handle on Saturday, but it's something that I know they can.
I'm just reading some of the bits that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said this morning. He said he might let Axel Tuanzebe give the team talk on Sunday. What do you think he'd say about your team?
I'd hope he'd say that they've got some good players and they'll work extremely hard, and they've got a very affable manager.
With a nice new contract. Obviously, I guess a huge part of you would have liked to have kept Axel in the summer, having got promoted. But did you always have the confidence that once he went back to Manchester United, he had the ability to force his way into the team? And he's already captained them as well this season.
Yeah, no, he's a terrific guy. He's got a terrific attitude, and that's the thing that will stand him in good stead with his future career at Manchester United. I can't speak highly enough of him. He was a big part of why we got promoted last season. I loved working with him, and I'd like to think that I helped, in a small part in his development, and I look forward to seeing him. But hopefully, if he's playing, he doesn't play too well against us.
Just a final point, then, because the games come thick and fast between now and Christmas, and be a lot made of the quality of opposition you've got in the next 2 or 3 weeks as well. Are you having to think more in the next month or so about just tweaking and rotating the squad a little bit?
Possibly. I mean, I think we've got 10 games in the next 5.5 weeks now. So it's a real intense period. But as I've said before, I treat each game in isolation. So I believe that we can go into each game and compete and go for 3 points. And that'll be the same Sunday at Manchester United or Wednesday at Chelsea, as it previously was against Man City and Liverpool. So we'll treat it each in isolation and then recover and see how the players are after that. And fortunately, I've got a really honest bunch of lads who will let me know if they're not 100% for the games.
Thanks, Dean.
Cheers, thank you.